What is up, guys? Eric here from EVM Productions, here with my last video for tonight, which I will release systematically. Alright, so people were talking about Alex Pereira being a bit too big for Dricus Du Plessis. However, this one clip has been going around where Dricus greeted Sean Strickland in front of Alex Pereira in the cage after their fight at UFC 312, 314. Yeah, I've already forgot that part. Sorry, guys. That whole event with Dricus Du Plessis and Sean in the rematch, only their fight and Zhang Weili versus Tatiana was really fun to watch. Sorry, just being honest. The Rosenstrike fight was Pavlovich was okay as well. But anyway, back to what I was just saying. Point is, people were saying, Dricus is way too small. Pereira's been saying the same thing, etc. But if you go look at that same clip, and you guys can go watch it in slow-mo to get a grasp here, this goes back to what I said about people not really knowing how to, like, people don't know how to look at somebody and see their density and stuff. They really don't get a grasp of it very well. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people underestimate people, especially when they're going to spar them. And I mean people that don't fight here. People that fight, I think they have a very acute sense of how big somebody is. So they can judge, and in the fight, they're mentally prepared for it in any way. Because generally, okay, yeah, I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyway, point is, if you watch that video back, you'll see Sean Strickland is almost as thick as a non-weight cutting Alex Pereira there. When Dricus greets him, well, he greets Sean now, and Sean turns and he walks out of the cage. You can see his arms are very thick. Like, I remember in the lead up to this fight, I was like, Sean Strickland looks very thick for this fight. Now, a lot of people have pointed out he doesn't look as shredded, etc. And I understand that, but people do not know that looking shredded isn't healthier than looking, how can I say this, flat. I'm going to say it like that because in bodybuilding, they say you're fat when you look like that. It means you're carrying a bit more body fat. More body fat means you have more energy reserves. Usually that means general health is a little bit better. A good example of this is, think about a very shredded and cut bodybuilder that just got on stage posing and all that stuff. Send him after that straight into a strongman or powerlifting competition. Let's just say bench press, squatting, and deadlifting. And his opponent is the same height, looks the same, outside of him looking a bit more flat. He looks big and puffy. Like a Brian Shaw, a Hafthor Bjornsson, a Mitchell Hooper, Tom Stoltman. You guys can go Google who these guys are if you guys are not into bodybuilding and strongman, powerlifting, etc. Now, just imagine in your head, a good example is a Mitchell Hooper built kind of guy versus this bodybuilder that just got done posing, and he's just shredded. You can see literally all of his veins, the striations in his pecs and shoulders. You can see everything. That's how shredded this bodybuilder is. Most people would say, oh, the bodybuilder, he looks so insanely big and crazy, like a Ronnie Coleman at his peak. He should just run away. He's going to be the stronger guy because their size is equal. Like, let's say their height is equal. And instantly I'm going to laugh at you, and you guys would probably lose like $1,000 bet right there, because in that moment I'd bet the $1,000 and be like, let's see. And just like guys like Mitchell Hooper, Tom Stoltman, all these guys just demolish people with weights, the same thing would happen. The reason why is because that person's carrying a bit more body fat. A higher amount of body fat isn't bad always. It just means that you're more healthy. That means you have enough body fat, you have enough muscle, you have enough energy reserves to do strenuous activity more continuous, like at a harder pace for longer. It doesn't mean you're fat. You shouldn't be fat. For bodybuilding, that would be fat. But for average person, like Sean Strickland is no average person. He survived all 5 rounds, not gassing out really and stuff. That says that he is no average person. But he didn't look as lean as he looked in his previous fight. That means he was actually a bit more healthy in an indirect sense. However, the staph infection, and if he had any cortisones, that could also have led to that, because then he's carrying water weight. Because unfortunately, cortisones does that to you. And also cortisones destroys your cardio. That would kill your cardio a lot more than the body fat, the extra body fat. So it's not always a bad thing to have a bit more body fat. It's just if you're supremely lean, you're going to be a bit weaker. Like all the bodybuilders, you guys can go look it up. They mention it. They feel very bad when they climb on that stage. Like they just want to eat and just get this done with. They want to win, and then they want to get this done with and replenish their body of all the reserves that are empty right now. Because you need to strip away everything to showcase the work of art that they have been working on, which is themselves at that point. And that's really, really hard. And MMA fighters do something very similar with weight cutting. Very close. And that's why people nearly died all the time. In bodybuilding, people do die many, many, many times because of the means they have to go to. And that's why they're the best example for this. So Sean, when he was on his way out of the cage, after Dricus greeted him there, you could see that he's almost as big, like barely smaller in thickness, in width, in density, something that I'm going to be talking about a lot on this channel in the next few weeks, few months and stuff. In density and stuff like that, he looked thick. He was almost as big as Alex Pereira that's not cutting weight. And I remember in the lead up, I was like, he's bigger than Dricus? Is he really bigger than Dricus? Because Dricus he has a different kind of shape to his muscles and stuff. He's a big dude. He's a very big dude. But in the lead up to this fight, you can see Dricus worked a bit more on his cardio and was a tiny bit thinner than what he usually would be in the cage. Because their first fight, and you guys can go double check this, Dricus was clearly the bigger guy. In this fight, Sean was clearly the bigger guy. But in the sense where he's carrying a bit more body fat, hiding a bit more of the muscle. And when they greeted, and Pereira is almost his size, the height difference isn't that big as well. It's not as big. He's slightly taller than Sean, and Sean barely taller. It's not just because he's taller. He just stands upright when he's fighting. He wasn't really taller than Dricus when they faced off. That means the size discrepancy people are talking about is not as big as they think. It's not a Gregory Rodriguez versus Jared Cannonier in their face-off. Like, it's not that. It's not John Jones versus every fat middleweight that he fought years back. It's not him versus Machida or even Glover. Glover was short to him in relativity to him. It's not him versus Vitor Belfort in the size discrepancy, or Chael Sonnen. It's not that difference, but people act like it is. And then they act on top like Pereira is built like Ngannou as well. Meanwhile, I'm like, no, clearly when they greeted there, Dricus isn't far off. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if that view, etc., the angle, etc., is accurate, then a 205, like properly bulked up Dricus Du Plessis, will be very competent strength-wise in that fight. And in that case, I'd still lean towards Dricus Du Plessis. And at middleweight, that's a really bad cut for Pereira, because he didn't look good in his last few cuts when he was at middleweight. So when he moved up, I was like, now we're going to see him prosper again, and I was correct. That means he would be too drained, and just like I explained earlier with the bodybuilder versus the strongman, even if the size were the same, even if the size discrepancy was there, that the bodybuilder that shredded and peeled is bigger, he would still lose because he wouldn't be strong enough. And that was what happened with Pereira. That's why many people say there's a caveat to the Israel Adesanya knockout, but I do not feel that there's a caveat there, because he still performed quite well, even though he was really compromised strength-wise. He performed very well in his fights. So I don't think that was the situation there. And his chin was fine until that fight, and then even after that, he hasn't been knocked out at light heavyweight, and most of those guys hit harder than Israel Adesanya. So I don't really buy into that there needs to be a caveat for that. It's just, right now, being a 200 to 230 pound light heavyweight, needing to cut back down to 185, aka you're going to be 200, 210 on average between camps. You need to get back into that. You need to get your body acclimated again. That would be a big ask. It would be like when TJ Dillashaw went down. Oh, no, wait. Very example would be Cody Garbrandt going down to flyweight to fight there and getting obliterated by Kai France because his body is just like, nah. Same with Dan Hooker when he went down to 145, I think 2022, 2023. It didn't work out, and it's because his body was just like, I don't like this. In fact, Dan Hooker's a guy that I say should go up. But, well, at one point, not now. He's on a decent winning streak. But anyway, guys, point is, Pereira at middleweight, he gets dog walked. Because Dricus will be bigger, equal or bigger than him in the cage on fight night. And then also, his chin was compromised because of the weight cut the previous time. It showed there was a weakness there. Dricus hit so much harder than Izzy. And that means you would just sleep him and then, or maybe just knock him down and then strangle him on the ground. Same thing with Hamzat at 185 versus Pereira. Bad idea. And at light heavyweight, it would be a very competitive fight, actually, which I still lean in favor of Dricus because of the wrestling aspect. However, if Pereira defends, then how would Dricus deal with his very unique style on the feet? I do think he would find his chin, and he would find a way to outstrike him on the feet, minus the leg kicks. Leg kicks would be something that continuously lands. But the rest, because of how he would mix it in, makes it a very compelling fight later on. However, we know that Hamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis is next. So, yeah, give me your guys' opinion on this. I'll see you guys next time. I thought this video was going to be a lot quicker, but yeah, I had to give that analogy of the bodybuilder versus the strongman. And now you guys know, if you guys didn't know, having a bit of body fat is not a bad thing if you want to be strong. It's just bad. Let me say it like this. For that time period where you put a lot of weight on, it's bad for your health. A good example of this was when Hafthor Bjornsson initially did the 501 in 2020, 501 kilogram deadlift in 2020. He was 200 to 220 kilograms, but bloated like a balloon. And he himself said, right now he built up the weight healthier, going for the next record, where he's going to go for the raw record on the deadlift at 501 in competition. Because there's so much controversy, blah, blah. Same thing with Eddie Hall when he did the 500 kilograms. He nearly died because of all the extra weight and stuff. And now he's 160, 170 kilograms, but very strong still. And that's a healthier weight for him. So there's a middle point. If you are big enough where your muscles don't fully show and you still have a little bit of fat of it, then you're in a good zone. You're in a good zone. If you're just below that, where you see leanness, like there's still muscle, like most MMA fighters, they show a lot of muscle, but not tremendous amounts, that is the correct level to be at as well, which is cool to think about. But yeah, cheers, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Would Dricus Du Plessis be dwarfed by Alex Pereira? And how would that fight go if the size is as close as I'm mentioning right now? Cheers.